you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Happy Halloween, y'all. Boo. Spooky time as I get, let me get a little taller here. Out slacking. It's the last day of October. It's too bad. But we still got goodies for you coming up this evening. And also friends of the show have stuff going on too. First, though, before we get started, let's say hi to everybody in the chat. Let me say hi to our buddy Willie, who's always very generous, a good person with the super chats. Appreciate you, man. He said, I accidentally shadow banned myself on Twitter with too many hashtags on my bio. It says hash rags. I think you meant hashtags, but if hash rags too, fuck it, why not? So my profile is more active now by removing it. In late 2023, I accidentally shadow banned myself on Facebook as well. You're quite the demon, aren't you? Let me see something. Does this work? Of course that doesn't work. I don't know why that doesn't work. So we have to do it like that. You don't want to disrespect nobody. Thanks, Willie. Appreciate you. CBC voters in the house, too. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic. Another dimension, another dimension, another dimension, another dimension. He's going to be on the show with me tonight for Night of the Living Dead. We're going to be doing a little commentary while the movie's going on. Hopefully we won't drive you crazy. Hopefully only the zombies or the living dead will make you crazy. Commerce Kate's in the house. She has a little something here we want to share. She's got her radio show, and it's already in the can, right? She's got Ghost Stories and Graveyards, Music Without Borders, 687. Of course, we always promote her doing her thing. Let me see. This is what she said. She said, it's just a radio show, kind of spooky, everything from post-classical spooky piano to lots of punk noir banjo. That's nice. Of course, some scary songs about the environment and the killing of trees. Yes, very good. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that. Always like to see good people in the house like that. We got Laine P, my co-host for my co-host for the Undercurrent, wishing me Thanks for the $5 and the happy Halloween. I know you meant ween, but you know, kind of a dick like that. Yeah, exactly. This is what's happening tonight. So hopefully you make it out there. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. But we'll talk more about that towards the end of the show. And one more programming note too. Unfortunately, we were going to have members of Chicago Corner on for to tell their side of the story. Unfortunately, some legal stuff has come up, and their lawyers have asked them not to come on at this time. So we we apologize for that, and hopefully we'll get the information out to you in one way or another. In the meantime, I plan on doing a show myself, talking about what's going on with their fundraising over there and how you might be affected. So just keep an eye out for that. And I promise you that show will happen. Kate, give me Canadian money. You know that shit don't spend $15. Damn, you're cool. Peer pressure because Laine and Willie. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, fine. Yeah, I mean, twist my arm. There you go. Get rid of that. What else we got in the house? We got CBC voter with the zombie. Fingerman was here. He was number one. I think Fingerman. I almost called you zombie. Fingerman, you don't have to feel guilty. You can show up whenever you want, man. I mean, if you're late, that's fine. This isn't university. You don't get points deducted for being late. Yeah, I am too, Laine. I'm in more ways than one. So who else we got here? I think that's everybody. Did we get everybody? Yeah. Okay. All right. And if I missed you, as always, going to I'm going to aim better next time. Well, since you're slinging money around, let's keep that money train going, because Daddy likes the cash. As look at this. For the holiday season, it's Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast Ground Coffee with pumpkin spice. Look at it. PUNKIN. It's like it's cutesy or something. What's up, Stephanie? Spoken class today. Whatever here. Ha. Pumpkin spice, yes, because that'll help. Like adding pumpkin spice to raw sewage, but 'tis the season for trick or treating. But with this coffee abandoned by God himself, it's all trick and no treat. If you took some delicious pumpkin spice, consumed it, and shat it out after a night of all-you-could-eat burritos and cheap tequila, you'll get close to the taste of pure horror this blend provides. Is saving money a scary thought to you? Are you looking for a diabolical blend of coffee to scare the hell out of people at your local haunted house? Well, then grab a bag of Desperation. For this season, it's Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast Ground Coffee, pumpkin spice, all cutesy. Found online and in a local haunted pet cemetery near you. And remember, folks, use promo code GRIFTER to pay an additional 20%, because that's how that works. Yeah, Canadian. Yeah, well, I think Canadian dollars might be worth more than U.S. dollars at this point. So, woohoo! Money. No, seriously, I do appreciate it. I don't like to beg for donations on here. I don't think that's right. But, if you're going to give it to me, I will definitely appreciate it. So, yeah, so we got bad news for you here on the unholy day, especially out in the Caribbean, for multiple reasons. The death toll climbs to 50 as Caribbean surveys Hurricane Melissa destruction. So this has a few things on here. So this is this. I don't know what this is. We got this looks like some of the high waves and winds that were coming through. This was a monster of a storm. It was a Cat 5 when it hit Haiti And let's get to what's going on now. So communities across the Northern Caribbean are reeling in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa today after the storm left a trail of devastation as it tore through the region as one of the strongest Atlantic storms on record. Was it? No, yeah. Well, I politely ask if people can't do it. That's fine. But yeah, you know, peer pressure works too, Kate. I'll take it any way we can get it, right? The hurricane brought torrential rains and damaging winds, which left hundreds of thousands without power, destroyed homes, and scattered fields with debris. Though rescue and recovery operations were underway, efforts continue to be hindered by widespread power outages and blocked roads. This morning, Melissa barreled away from Bermuda after making its closest approach at about 2 a.m. Eastern time, reaching about 150 miles northwest from land as a Category 1 storm with hurricane-force winds gusts reaching Bermuda, the National Hurricane Center said. By 5 a.m., I believe that's Eastern time too, Melissa was packing 90-mile-per-hour winds and retreating to the northeast at 41 miles per hour. Yeah, in Jamaica, local authorities said crews and residents were working to assist with relief support. Desmond McKenzie, the country's Minister of Local Government and Community Development, previously said over 170 communities across 6 parishes were moderately or severely affected by the storm. The entire Jamaica is really broken because of what has happened, but we remain resilient, said Jamaican Minister of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information, Dana Dixon, yesterday. We will get there. We're going to get every single Jamaican and give them support. In Cuba and Haiti, heavy rainfall caused extensive damage, according to Francisco Pichon, resident coordinator for Cuba at the United Nations. More than 200 communities remained isolated and without communications due to flooding and landslides. A hurricane unleashed catastrophic flooding in Haiti, damaging homes and forcing thousands of people into emergency shelters. Officials across the region said they expected the death toll to rise as they continue to verify reported deaths and search for missing people. By last night, at least 50 deaths had been attributed to the storm. Look at this. Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens. It just dumps all this water. Authorities in Haiti, which was not directly hit by the hurricane but was battered with days of rainfall, said yesterday at least 30 people were killed in the storm and 20 more were missing. At least 23 people, including 10 children, died due to floods in Petit Goave, a coastal town about 40 miles west of the capital, where a river burst its banks. In Jamaica, the country's information minister told Reuters that at least 19 people were killed in the storm. Local officials previously said they had dedicated a helicopter to the recovery of bodies, and authorities were continuing search and rescue efforts. At least 2 deaths were reported in the Dominican Republic, including one person who died before the storm made landfall, according to the Pan American Health Organization. Before landfall, authorities also reported the storm caused 3 deaths in Jamaica and 3 in Haiti. Hurricane Melissa is expected to weaken to a post-tropical cyclone before passing to the south of the Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland, Canada on Friday night. The Hurricane Center said it will also reach about 580 miles from Nantucket, Massachusetts later today. Swells generated by the storm will impact the northeast U.S. coast and Atlantic Canada and persist into the weekend, bringing life-threatening rip currents and surf conditions, forecasters said. So, Willie, you can't, no surfing this weekend, all right? I know you like to hang 10, but come on, man. You know, safety first. Melissa will bring significant risks to lives, property, and business operations in Newfoundland, according to AccuWeather. Speaking of North Carolina, long-period waves from Hurricane Melissa are forecast to bring large surf to Carolina's Outer Banks on Friday. I tell you, Willie, it's tempting. Don't do it. A significant wave run-up may result in the ocean reaching past the dunes in vulnerable locations, according to the National Weather Service. In Morehead City, only isolated road closures are expected, the service said. 5 houses collapsed in Buxton, North Carolina this week, and officials at Cape Hatteras National Seashore has reported other homes remain at risk. A high risk of riptides is forecast along the Outer Banks and North Carolina coast on Friday, which is today, from North Topsail Beach to Duck. See, you said duck, and then I got out of the way. Sorry. I usually have a rim shot here, but that joke's not worth it. Because of Melissa's angle as it moves away into the North Atlantic, its swell is not expected to affect the New England coast, according to Joe Delacarpini. Ooh, Delacarpini. That's a great name. A meteorologist with the Weather Service in Boston. So clinics and hospitals in Jamaica sustained extensive damage when Melissa roared through the island nation, and dozens of health centers in Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic were impacted. According to a report from the Pan American Health Organization, the hardest hit hospitals were all in the western half of the island, according to the report. Black River Hospital in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, is inoperable with its roof collapse, walls damaged, and extensive flooding, according to the report. Falmouth Hospital in Trelawney was severely damaged from storm surge flooding, with Knoll Homes in Hanover and Cornwall Regional and St. James were both damaged and had services relocated. And I know I talked about this the other day, but that storm surge, if you're on the coast, that's the worst part, because it's like a tsunami of water coming in. And when Katrina hit, like I said, it went in about a mile inland, and was up to about 30 feet deep. Yeah, it's scary stuff. And at night, too. That's the worst part, where you can't see shit. Or maybe that's the good part, that you can't see shit. 5 hospitals in Jamaica have reported for full services, and several other health centers began delivering services during limited hours yesterday, government officials said in an update. Other hospitals are in emergency mode, providing critical and life-saving care only. So there are ways you can help. The humanitarian organizations have begun mobilizing to provide immediate relief and prepare for long-term recovery after the storm. You can help with donations and other forms of support for organizations, including American Friends of Jamaica, the American Red Cross, AmeriCares, CARE, Global Giving, and the Salvation Army, and several others. These links will be in our Substack for the show. A little bit after the show ends, I usually update the Substack then, and you'll be able to click on this article and you'll see all the links down here. Jamaican officials also launched the Support Jamaica website at supportjamaica.gov.jm, where you can make a donation. The government also warned that there have been nefarious individuals collecting money on behalf of the government, but only sites that end in .gov.jm are official government sites. Yes, always stay frosty in times of disasters like this, because you have people who do price gouging, and then you also have people with fake charities that are trying to help. You know, it's like don't these people have enough problems without some scammers having to come along? So looking at zoom.earth, this is where it is right now. So Melissa, I guess this is it. This is the local. Yeah, this is the latest. So it's now down to a post-tropical cyclone here at 85 miles per hour sustained winds. And we zoom out here, you can see the path it's going. Basically, here's where it came from. It just cut right through here. I don't know. Can you see my thing? Okay. Yeah. So basically, it hit the western part of Jamaica, hit the eastern part of Cuba. And this thing was a monster. It finally, by the time it got to Cuba, I think it was down to a 3. Yeah, crazy stuff. And like I said, the only effect it's going to have on the United States eastern coast is like those high waves and riptides and stuff like that. So, Willie, I know you're out there. I know you're out there surfing. You always do. You're a surfing bird. What's up, Steve? Good morning to you. You double dipping over on the YouTubes and the Facebook. That's very nice. Good to see you, my friend. So every year it seems like the UN votes to lift the Cuba embargo, but this time around they may have some backing. They may have some backing with it because of this hurricane. As the UN votes to urge U.S. to lift Cuba embargo for the 33rd time as island ravaged by Hurricane Melissa. As As Cuba was among the Caribbean nations hit by one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes on record, the UN General Assembly on Wednesday voted overwhelmingly in favor of a resolution calling on the U.S. government to end its 65-year-old embargo on the country. Yes, since 1960. The final tally for the resolution was 165 nations voting in favor, with just 7 nations opposed. Can you guess which ones they were? 12 nations abstained from voting. This now marks the 33rd consecutive year that the UN General Assembly has voted in favor of a resolution to end the U.S. embargo, which has economically isolated Cuba for decades, even as the Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, which had long been used to justify the blockade, ended more than 3 decades ago. Funny. It seems like maybe it didn't have to do with Russia after all, huh? Maybe it has something to do with communism and helping people. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez said the assembly ahead of the vote that the U.S. blockade was a policy of collective punishment that flagrantly, massively, and systematically violates the human rights of Cubans. Nonetheless, Rodriguez vowed that Cuba will not surrender. The International People's Assembly, a coalition of 200 trade unions and social justice groups, noted that the vote was taking place as Hurricane Melissa was worsening the economical, structural, and living conditions of the Cuban people, suffering that is likely to be compounded by the embargo. Representatives from several other Latin American nations made the case for ending the U.S. embargo during speeches delivered at the UN on Wednesday. The accumulation of economic suffocation imposed from abroad for generations is equivalent to the destruction caused by war, said Venezuelan UN Ambassador Samuel Moncado. Because the blockade is an act of economic war aimed at subduing an entire population through hunger, disease, and death. This is the truth the U.S. seeks to hide when they call this crime simply a political measure. Walton Alfonsi Webson, Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador. I thought that was okay. That's a thing. To the UN, described Cuba as a vital partner in the region and demanded that the U.S. remove the embargo and let the Cuban people breathe. Colombian UN Ambassador Leonor Zalabata noted that Cuba has played a crucial role in helping uphold a 2016 peace treaty between the Colombian government and the Fuerzas Armadas the Revolutionaries de Colombia, FARC. Rough day. A Marxist guerrilla organization that agreed to disarm as part of a ceasefire deal that ended decades of violent conflict. Cuba has been and continues to be a trusted partner in efforts to consolidate peace in Colombia and across the region, she said. Despite overwhelming support at the UN for lifting the embargo, the resolution's passage will have no real-world impact on U.S. foreign policy, since ending the decades-old blockade would require an act of the U.S. Congress. Yeah, good luck with that, right? The latest vote to lift the U.S. embargo came as Melissa was causing massive devastation in Cuba and countries throughout the Caribbean. According to CNN, the hurricane was a Category 3 storm when it made landfall in Cuba early Wednesday morning, and it forced at least 735,000 Cubans to evacuate their homes. Revolucionarias. Damn. Getting hit with these words. Early. Not a good look. Speaking of the Caribbean, or the Caribbean, however you like to say it, another drug boat. Go bye-bye. U.S. bombs 15th alleged drug boat in Latin America. I have some vodka. Daddy likes the taste, but he likes the burn more. The U.S. military has bombed another alleged drug boat in the waters of Latin America, according to a statement from the U.S. Secretary of Defense. I'm not calling him the War Secretary. Fuck that. Pete Hegseth. Hegseth said the vessel was targeted in the Eastern Pacific and provided no evidence. So this was on the other side, but still Latin America. It provided no evidence to back up the claims it was carrying drugs. He claimed the strike killed 4 narco terrorists a term Trump administration is using to justify the extrajudicial executions at sea. The attack brings the total number of boats the U.S. has bombed since September 2nd to 15th. To 15, and the total number of people killed in the campaign to 61, according to numbers released by the Trump administration. 8 boats were hit in the Caribbean and 7 were targeted in the Eastern Pacific. A day earlier, Hegseth announced the bombing of 4 boats in a single day and said 1 survivor was rescued by the Mexican government, signaling the U.S. is escalating the campaign. Hegseth has made clear that the bombings won't stop and has drawn parallels to the U.S. war on terror, which continues to this day. Oh, yes, that war on terror. The Western Hemisphere is no longer a safe haven for narco-terrorists bringing drugs to our shores to poison Americans. The Department of War will continue to hunt them down and eliminate them wherever they operate, Hegseth said on Wednesday, although he was muffled because he had his head up Trump's ass. The U.S. military has also continued its campaign in the Caribbean aimed at toppling Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. On Monday, the U.S. conducted its 3rd bomber flight near Venezuela's coast, and the War Department recently announced that it is deploying an aircraft carrier to the region. I thought that's what Trinidad and Tobago was, the aircraft carrier for them. Meanwhile, Pentagon tells Congress they don't know who it's killing in Latin American boat strikes. Who? Are you guys killing people? What? Nah, fam, they ain't. What? We don't know who they are. Department of Defense officials don't know the identities of the 61 people who have been extrajudicially executed in U.S. military strikes on boats in the waters near Venezuela and in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. According to Politico on Thursday, citing House Democrats who attended a classified briefing on the campaign. The department officials said that they do not need to positively identify individuals on these vessels to do the strikes. They just need to prove a connection to smuggling, said Representative Sarah Jacobs, Democrat out of California. When we tried to get more information, we did not get satisfactory answers. While the Trump administration has cited overdose deaths in the U.S. related to fentanyl, which I thought was coming from China. I didn't think that was coming from down there. To justify the bombing campaign, lawyers were told in the briefing that the boats that had been targeted were allegedly smuggling cocaine through though the Pentagon has not provided evidence to back up its claims about what the vessels were carrying. How about that? Not provided evidence. That's the theme. That's the theme of all of this. They argued that cocaine is a facilitating drug of fentanyl, but that was not a satisfactory answer for most of us, Jacobs said. The briefing yesterday came after the Pentagon shut out Democrats from another briefing it held with Republicans a day earlier, which left Democratic senators fuming. Democrats who attended Thursday's briefing said Pentagon lawyers were pulled from the meeting at the last minute. Yeah, they were smuggling Tylenol. Yeah. They were smuggling ivermectin. Yeah. So, am I leaving satisfied? Absolutely not. The last word that I gave to the Admiral was, I hope you recognize the constitutional peril that you are in and the peril you are putting our troops in. Representative Seth Moulton, you know that guy, Democrat out of Massachusetts, told reporters after the briefing, according to CNN. Seth Moulton being the guy who says, I'm not taking AIPAC money, but, if they launder it, Jacob said that based on what she was told, even if Congress authorized the bombing campaign, it would still be illegal. There's nothing that we heard in there that changes my assessment that this is completely illegal, that it is unlawful. And even if Congress authorized it, it would still be illegal because there are extrajudicial killings where we have no evidence, she said. Criticism of the U.S. bombing campaign has also come from Republicans, most prominently from Senator Rand Paul. No one said their name. No one said what evidence. No one said whether they're armed, and we've had no evidence presented, Paul said this week, of the people who had been targeted. They summarily execute people without presenting evidence to the public. It's so wrong. Paul has joined Senate Democrats in introducing a war powers resolution aimed at preventing the Trump administration from starting a war with Venezuela amid threats of U.S. strikes on the country aimed at ousting President Nicolas Maduro and a major U.S. military buildup in the region. A vote on the bill is expected to happen next week. Yeah, so they're just straight up just admitting that, yeah, we don't know who we're killing. We're just assuming, you know, because they're in boats, you know, and drug runners, they use boats, you know. What are you're gonna blow up the Love Boat too? You're gonna blow up Carnival Cruise? Here we are. Can't do nothing, folks, till we get in the streets. Shut shit down. Let's shut it down. That's the only way to do it. Meanwhile, in Brazil, dun, 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 dun. If you know, you know. Families cluster at Rio morgue looking for answers after deadly police raids. Rio de Janeiro. Families lined up at a morgue on Thursday in Rio to identify relatives killed in Brazil's deadliest ever police raids, and funerals began to take place for 4 police officers who died taking part in the operation. Authorities have said at least 121 people, including the officers, died in the Tuesday raids targeting the Comando Vermelho gang that controls the drug trade in several favelas, poor, densely populated neighborhoods woven through the city's hilly terrain. Many of the corpses of those killed were retrieved by locals from the forested area near the Penha favela on Tuesday night. On Thursday morning, more than 100 bodies were still awaiting autopsies or identification at a local morgue. Relatives stood outside, gazing through the fence and waiting for updates. Some locals said they had found corpses with bound limbs and signs of torture, stirring protests and political backlash in a country where police killed over 6,000 people last year, according to government data. Victor Santos, Rio State Security Secretary, said yesterday that any misconduct that may have occurred, which I believe did not happen, will be investigated. Rio de Janeiro Governor Claudio Castro called the operation a success and said the only real victims were the slain officers. All the others killed were criminals, he said. That's good. That's what you like. You like to hear that from your leaders. Castro was scheduled to meet yesterday with several right-leaning state governors who traveled to Rio to show support. A group of left-wing lawmakers led by Congresswoman Talaria Petron visited the Penha neighborhood to meet and talk to locals. What's up, Pittsburgh dude? What's going on? Do me a favor, fella in the favela. Favela. We will closely monitor the situation after yet another massacre in the favelas, Patron said on social media, calling for truth, justice, and accountability in the face of another operation marked by human rights violations. Pardon me, I got sticky throat. But not from that. UN officials have criticized the heavy casualties of the military-style operation and said there should be an investigation. Santos said there was no connection between the raids and the global events Rio will host next week, tied to the UN's COP30, you get it, climate negotiations, including the C40 Summit of Mayors addressing global warming and Prince William's Earthshot Prize. Brazil's federal government was caught off guard by the operation by Rio State Police. Justice Ricardo Lewandowski told journalists on Wednesday. President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, Lula, called for coordinated work that targets the gangs without putting police and innocent families at risk. Yesterday, he signed into law a bill aimed at increasing protection for public officials involved in fighting organized crime, because yes, cops with weapons and tear gas and all this stuff, body armor, they need protection from people with whistles. The Brazilian government does not tolerate criminal organizations and acts to combat them with ever greater vigor, he wrote on social media. Favelas. Schlemiel, favela, Haas and Fepter Incorporated. We're full of references today. Back here at home, the states are doing what the U.S. government's not doing, taking care of their people, at least trying to. States in emergency mode as Trump GOP refuses to fund food aid for poor Americans. And again, let's be fair, there are Democrats in the mix who are basically falling on the sword for the Affordable Care Act when they should be trying in these times to get Medicare for all. But then again, if we didn't get it during the pandemic, chances are it's not going to happen. So this is all just pointless bullshit. Yeah, I know, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if they were trained by him too, man. Probably. As the Trump administration refuses to use existing federal funds for SNAP, governors are stepping up to help the 42 million low-income Americans nationwide who are set to miss their collective $8 billion in monthly SNAP benefits as long as the U.S. government shutdown over healthcare continues in November, which tomorrow starts November, in case you forgot. New York Governor Kathy Hochul declared a state of emergency and committed an additional $65 million in new state funds for food assistance, bringing the total she's announced in recent days to $106 million. The Trump administration is cutting food assistance off for 3 million New Yorkers, leaving our state to face an unprecedented public health crisis and hurting our grocers, bodegas, and farmers along the way, she said in a statement. Unlike Washington Republicans, I won't sit idly by as families struggle to put food on the table. No, but you'll make people have to get that fucking shot just to go into a restaurant, won't you? While Hochul's funding for food banks and pantries has won her praise, Citizen Action of New York, Hunger Free America, and Vocal New York are calling on her to go even further. They said in a joint statement that we agree that the federal government is illegally, immorally, and senselessly denying food assistance to 42 million people, but the facts don't support Governor Hochul's claim that no state can fund SNAP benefits to their residents. We urge her to use state funds to pay for all or some of November SNAP benefits, just as multiple other states have already done, the group says. They noted that Republican Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin and Democratic Delaware Governor Matt Meyer committed to funding SNAP benefits for the entire month of November, while Democratic New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham made a similar commitment for the first 10 days of the month, at which point the state government will revisit the situation. Other governors are taking action more in line with Hochul, as the New York Times detailed. California is releasing $80 million to bolster food banks in the state. $80 million. California got the seventh largest economy in the world. They only doing $80 million. Fuck you, California. Connecticut is allocating $3 million for that purpose, and Minnesota $4 million. Yesterday, Illinois set aside $20 million. $10 million from a new emergency reserve fund and $10 million from the state's Department of Human Services for 7 food banks. In Hawaii, Governor Josh Green, a Democrat, is diverting a $100 million surplus from the Federal Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program, or TANF, remember that, to help families with children pay their housing and utility bills, freeing up money in the family budget to be spent on food instead, according to the Times. Arizona Mirror reported that Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs announced Wednesday that she would disperse $1.5 million in leftover American Rescue Plan Act COVID relief funds to Arizona food banks, and that she would put another $300,000 toward an emergency fresh food program called Food Bucks Now. It was called Booed Fucks Now, but they really had to change that. Over 24 Democrat-led states are also suing the Trump administration. We told you about that. Over the U.S. Department of Agriculture's refusing to use a contingency fund to at least partly cover November SNAP benefits. A federal judge appointed to the District of Massachusetts by former President Barack Obama began hearing arguments in the case yesterday morning. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani appeared skeptical of arguments by Justice Department Attorney Jason Altabet that the contingency funds could not be used to fund SNAP benefits during the shutdown. Reuters reported during the hearing in Boston, Talwani told the government's lawyer, "You have money that was appropriated that could be used during this fiscal year." Why aren't they using it? A coalition of charitable and faith-based nonprofits, local governments, small businesses, and workers' rights groups filed a similar lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island yesterday. The complaint filed by Democracy Forward declared that the Trump administration had needlessly plunged SNAP into crisis and asked the court to immediately grant temporary relief to ensure that millions of Americans can continue to receive essential SNAP benefits. Trumpy and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins are under similar pressure from the more than 50,000 people who have signed a Move On civic action petition launched Wednesday night in partnership with Rural Organizing. Trump is holding food for families hostage to force huge cuts to health care, said Rural Organizing Sean Sebastian. The government shutdown began at the start of the month because the White House and congressional Republicans wanted to maintain their funding plans, while Democrats pushed legislation to undo the GOP's recent Medicaid cuts and extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. Yeah. Americans who get health insurance on ACA marketplaces are facing an imminent premium surge, but they were facing that anyway. Sebastian said that people all over the country, particularly rural families, who will be the ones disproportionately harmed by Trump's cruel games, are speaking out for themselves and for their neighbors by demanding USDA Secretary Rollins meet her responsibilities to the American people, follow precedent, and continue food assistance programs during the shutdown. Two New York Democrats on Capitol Hill, Representatives AOC, you know me, and Josh Riley made a similar demand in a Thursday letter to Trump. Oh, that harshly worded letter. Yeah, that always works. And Rollins signed by the state's entire Democratic congressional delegation, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. With less than 2 days before the benefits are halted, we urge USDA to use SNAP's available contingency funds to pay out November benefits, which would cover more than 2/3 of all benefits, they wrote. USDA can then use its transfer authority, as it did for the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, also known as WIC, to cover the remaining gap and ensure benefits remain uninterrupted. Yeah, these rich states like New York and California, pony up that cash, right? What are you doing with that money? Fundraising for more worthless Democrats? And if that's not bad enough, boom, 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 out go the lights. Extremely dangerous for humanity. Trump orders resumption of U.S. nuclear weapons testing. See, because we're trying to bring back that 80s motif, with Panama Jack shirts and feathered hair and nuclear bomb tests. Yeah. Trumpy said Wednesday that he's ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapons testing, an announcement made in a frighteningly vague social media post that threatens to shred decades of global progress and heighten tensions with China and Russia. Trump mentioned both of those nations in his post, which was published to Truth Social just ahead of the president's meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. Yeah, Cold War II, electric Trumpaloo. Yeah. The U.S. has more nuclear weapons than any other country, Trump wrote inaccurately. No, Russia has more. Actually, Russia has more nukes than the United States. Because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. Experts and nuclear non-proliferation advocates quickly began trying to parse Trump's statement and determine its implications for the global arms race. It's unclear from Trump's post whether he intends to resume explosive nuclear tests, the last of which was conducted underground in Nevada back in 1992. Wow, that late? I thought they'd stopped like in the 60s or something. Beatrice Finn, former executive director of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICANWA, warned that jump-starting nuke tests would be incredibly stupid and pointed to the 1996 Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which the U.S. signed but never ratified. Wink, 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 but we signed it. This would have real devastating impact for Americans, Finn said, of explosive nuclear testing. It will harm, kill, and poison people. It's been estimated that past U.S. nuclear testing killed as many Americans as its bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki did, especially if you live in the Southwest. Even if such nuclear tests are conducted underground, this poses a risk in terms of the possible release and venting of radioactive materials, as well as the potential leakage into the groundwater. Daryl Kimball, director of the Arms Control Association, the good ACA, wrote in response to the U.S. president's post that Trump is misinformed and out of touch. The U.S. has no technical, military, or political reason to resume nuclear explosive testing for the first time since 1992, wrote Kimball. It would take at least 36 months to resume contained nuclear tests underground at the former test site in Nevada. No country except North Korea has conducted a nuclear test explosion in this century, Kimball observed. By foolishly announcing his intention to resume nuclear testing, Trump will trigger strong public opposition in Nevada from all U.S. allies, and it could trigger a chain reaction of nuclear testing by U.S. adversaries and blow apart the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. One Nevada lawmaker, Democratic U.S. Representative Dina Titus, vowed following Trump's announcement to introduce legislation to put a stop to this. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One after his meeting with China's president, Trump said details of the testing resumption, including the sites, would be announced at an unspecified later date, which means he's probably just blowing smoke and it's never going to happen. Just months ago, the U.S. announced that it completed the assembly of the first B-6113 nuclear gravity bomb ahead of schedule. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago, Trump said. But with others doing testing, I think it's important that we do so also. Come on, guys. Let's boomity boom, boom, boomity boom, boom. Russia, which just days ago successfully tested its nuclear-capable Burevestnik cruise missile, has said it would only resume explosive nuclear testing if the U.S. does so first. Here we go. China's foreign ministry, meanwhile, expressed hope that the U.S. will earnestly fulfill its obligations under the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and honor its commitment to suspend nuclear testing. Trump's social media posts is sure to heighten fears of escalating nuclear tensions and potentially catastrophic global consequences. Manpreet Sethi, a member of the Science and Security Board at the Bulletin of the Atomic Sciences, warned earlier this year that the U.S. has abdicated its role as a voice of caution as the risk of nuclear use continues to grow due to capabilities building up and treaties breaking down. It seems inclined to expand its nuclear arsenal and adopt a posture that reinforces the belief that limited use of nuclear weapons can be managed, Sethi said over a week after Trump's second term began. Such misplaced confidence could have us stumble into a nuclear war. That's probably what he wants. Tilman Ruff, a board member of the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, or IPNUM, wrote Thursday that a resumption of U.S. nuclear weapons testing would be extremely dangerous for humanity. It would almost inevitably be followed by tit-for-tat reciprocal announcements by other nuclear-armed states, particularly Russia and China, and cement an accelerating arms race that puts us all in great jeopardy, Ruff wrote. It would also create profound risks of radioactive fallout globally. Even if such nuclear tests are conducted underground, this poses a risk in terms of the possible release and venting of radioactive materials, as well as the potential leakage into groundwater. It's really an extraordinarily dangerous time in history, Ruff said. Ruff being aptly named there. So, yeah. Is this just some sort of intimidation tactic? Is this just a threat to say, hey, we're gonna get the nukes back up? Hey, it's the 80s, baby. Remember Star Wars? Remember that shit where they want to put nukes in space? Or some sort of laser beam? Well, Russia responded to his bullshit. As Russia says it will respond if the U.S. starts testing nuclear weapons. Russia yesterday warned that it would respond if the U.S. began testing nuclear weapons, comments that came after Trumpy said in a post on Truth Social he had ordered the War Department to restart tests. It's unclear from Trump's post if he meant the testing of nuclear-capable missiles, something the U.S. regularly does, or actually detonating nuclear bombs, which the U.S. hasn't done since '92. The president said that he ordered the Pentagon to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. Russia has recently tested a nuclear-capable missile and a nuclear-capable underwater drone, but there have been no known recent detonations of nuclear weapons by any nation. Since the 90s, all nuclear-armed states, except North Korea, which last detonated a nuclear bomb in 2017, have maintained a moratorium on detonating nuclear weapons. The U.S. is a sovereign nation and has the right to make sovereign decisions, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said in a response to Trump's post. However, I'd like to recall President Putin's repeatedly stated position. If anyone breaks the moratorium, Russia will respond in kind. The U.S. and Russia are signatories to the 1996 Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty we told you about, but it hasn't been ratified by all parties, including the U.S. Russia ratified the CTBT, that's what that was, in 2000, but revoked it in 2023, saying it was mirroring the U.S. position. Both powers have ratified the 1963 Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which is in force and prohibits all nuclear test detonations except for those conducted underground. Peskov also said Russia hasn't received any notification from the U.S. about a future nuclear weapons test, and that Moscow wasn't aware of any other country that has recently detonated a nuclear bomb. In a statement, Trump mentioned that other countries are purportedly involved in testing nuclear weapons. Until now, we were unaware that anyone was engaging in the testing. Daryl G. Kimball, the executive director of Arms Control Today, strongly criticized Trump's post and noted that it would take years to actually resume the detonation of nuclear weapons. Trump is misinformed and out of touch. The U.S. has no technical, military, or political reason to resume this testing for the first time since 92. It would take at least 36 months to resume contained nuclear tests underground at the former test site in Nevada. I don't think Trump's going to wait. If he's going to do it, I don't think he's going to wait. It's just like, go find a hole out there, stick the bomb in there, let's see what it does. Come on, guys. Boom-de-boom, boom, 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 boom. So Russia's not done. They're testing a nuclear-capable Poseidon super torpedo. So I tell the ladies that's what I call my penis, a super torpedo, and they say, "No, you are lying." Say, yes, you are correct. Putin said Wednesday that Russia had successfully, sorry for oversharing, said Wednesday that Russia had successfully tested a Poseidon nuclear-powered super torpedo that military analysts say is capable of devastating coastal regions by triggering vast radioactive ocean swells. Now, those are the tasty waves you should be surfing on, Willie, is those nuclear ocean swells. Trump has toughened both his rhetoric and his stance on Russia. Putin has publicly flexed his nuclear muscles with the test of the new Burevestnik cruise missile on the 21st and nuclear launch drills on the 22nd. There are a few confirmed details about the Poseidon, named after the ancient Greek god of the sea. Apparently, Aquaman was already taken by the Secretary of State, but it is essentially a nuclear-capable cross between a torpedo and a drone. So it's a drone, it's a torpedo. Putin over tea and cakes at a hospital in Moscow with Russian soldiers wounded in the Ukraine war. I love his tea and cakes. Said the test had taken place on Tuesday. For the first time, we managed not only to launch it with a launch engine from the carrier submarine, but also to launch nuclear power unit on which device passed certain amount of time, Putin said. There is nothing like it, he said, adding that there was no way to intercept the Poseidon, which analysts believe has a range of 10,000 kilometers, about 6,200 miles, and can travel at about 185 kilometers per hour. Yikes. The Burevestnik and Poseidon tests are intended to send a clear message that Russia, in Putin's words, will never bow to Western pressure over the war in Ukraine. For Trump, who has called Russia a paper tiger for failing to swiftly subdue Ukraine, the message is that Russia remains a global military competitor, especially on nuclear weapons, and that Moscow's overtures on nuclear arms control should be acted on. The Poseidon is a new weapon that has appeared amid what Putin has cast as a global arms race, primarily between the United States, Russia, and China, to modernize and develop their nuclear arsenals. Poseidon, known in NATO as Canyon, is 20 meters long, 1.8 meters in diameter, and weighs 100 tons, according to Russian media. Arms control experts say the weapon breaks most of the traditional nuclear deterrence and classification rules. They have estimated it would carry a 2 megaton warhead and perhaps is powered with a liquid metal cooled reactor. That's just like me. I'm powered with a liquid metal cooled reactor too. It's so good. Putin said Poseidon's power exceeded that of even our most promising Sarmat intercontinental range missile, which is known as the SSX-29 or Satan II, the Wrath of Khan. Since first announcing the Poseidon and Burevestnik in 2018, Putin has cast them as a response to U.S. moves to build a missile defense shield after Washington in 2001 unilaterally withdrew from the 1972 Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, as well as to NATO's Eastern enlargement. After Russia's test of the Burevestnik, Trump said Putin should end the war in Ukraine instead of testing a nuclear-powered missile, to which Putin replied, "You can kick rocks, you orange bitch." Yeah, so folks have got weapons around the world, not just the United States. So World War III, here you come. Speaking of their military, the Moscow restarts military flights to Syrian airbase amid efforts to strengthen Damascus alliance. What's up, Wesley? Satan 2, the exploding. Everybody knows the sequels suck, and then, this is Terminator 2. I guess it would be it would be Satan 2 Judgment Day. Max Sarge, the hills do have eyes. They sure do. And they're looking at you, buddy, and they're going, yeah, what's up? Russia has resumed military flights to the air base in Syria after a hiatus of nearly 6 months as the two countries move to establish closer relations, according to Bloomberg. Citing the flight tracking website Flight Radar 24, the newspaper said that at least 2 Russian aircraft flew to the Russian airbase in Latakia Governorate on the Syrian coast. A Russian Air Force Ilyushin Tu-62M transport plane flew from Libya to Latakia, then to the Moscow region on October 26. Antonov AN-124-100 Russian heavy cargo planes, have arrived at the airport on 3 occasions since October 24th. Bloomberg also cited an anonymous source close to the Kremlin as saying that Russia is resuming flights to which Moscow relies on as a logistics hub to project power in the West Asia and Africa. Russia also maintains a naval base at the port of Tartus, its only foothold in the Mediterranean. Relations between Russia and Syria have been in flux since HTS, the former al-Qaeda affiliate, took power in Damascus in December last year, toppling former President Bashar al-Assad's government. Moscow had supported Assad's government in its war against the HTS-led insurgency, which was backed by the U.S., Israel, and their Gulf and European allies. After HTS took control of Syria, it was unclear whether Russia would maintain its naval base in Tartus and air base in Harmonious H. However, a silent partnership between Russia and Israel regarding Syria and Iran has become apparent since HTS leader Ahmad al-Rashad declared himself president. Remember, he declared himself president. He's president. In February, Reuters reported on a white paper issued by Israel saying that top Israeli officials were lobbying their U.S. counterparts to ensure that Syria remains weak and decentralized by allowing Russia to keep its air and naval bases on the Syrian coast as a counter to Turkish influence. U.S. officials were reportedly shocked by the Israeli proposal, considering Russia is a U.S. enemy in the Ukraine conflict, while Turkey is a member of NATO. The proposal was also conveyed to members of Congress during meetings in Israel. During the Israel-Iran war in June, Russian President Vladimir Putin explained that Moscow would not assist the Islamic Republic militarily despite a recent strategic agreement signed between them. Pussy. Addressing the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, or SPEEF, on June 23rd, Putin said Russia must stay neutral because almost 2 million people from the former Soviet Union and the Russian Federation reside in Israel. Zio babies. It is almost a Russian-speaking country today, and undoubtedly we always take this into account in Russia's contemporary history. Pussy. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, hundreds of thousands of Russian Jews have immigrated to Israel. Many are dual Russian-Israeli citizens. Ahmad al-Rashad, Syria's self-appointed president and former al-Qaeda chief, visited Moscow on October 15th for talks with Putin, marking his first visit to the country. Among the topics of discussion was Russia's military bases in Syria. We respect all previous agreements with Russia, and we are trying to redefine the nature of these relations with the aim of ensuring Syria's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and security stability, which is linked to regional and global stability, Shara said during his meeting with Putin. Shara alleged on September 12th that he and his forces took power in Damascus as part of an agreement with Russia. The president told Al-Ikhbariya TV channel that his forces had begun secret negotiations with Russia during the 11-day offensive that toppled the former government. Earlier this year, it was reported that Syria was receiving currency shipments from Moscow as part of a deal signed with the Assad government. So you're like, well, why didn't Russia help Iran? Well, now you know. It's because apparently half of Israel is Russian. Shh. Awkward. Meanwhile, in Ukrainian conscription crisis sees 100,000 youth flee in 2 months. Hey, look, it's ICE. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Nearly 100,000 young men have fled Ukraine in just 2 months after Kiev eased movement restrictions under martial law in an effort to address its ongoing conscription crisis, according to reports by Politico Europe and The Telegraph. Citing data from the Polish border guard, the outlets revealed that 98,500 Ukrainian males aged between 18 and 22 crossed the border in September and this month. This marks a dramatic increase compared to the 45,300 who left between January and the end of August. You're supposed to hallelujah. In a bid to prevent parents from sending their teenage sons abroad and to allow returnees to avoid prosecution, Kiev lifted the travel ban on men under the age of 23. Ukrainian Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko stated that the policy was intended to help citizens abroad maintain ties with Ukraine. The easing of restrictions comes as Ukrainian authorities struggle to replenish army ranks amid a grinding military campaign and reports of increasing battlefield casualties. Kiev's mobilization efforts have triggered growing discontent, with viral videos on social media showing military officers forcibly detaining conscription-aged men in the streets and pushing them into vans. Hey, that sounds familiar. The controversial tactics have sparked protests and fueled public anger over the state of the military draft system. Ukrainian military officials have voiced concern over troop shortages, warning that a lack of personnel is allowing Russian forces to breach fortified positions along the front. Despite continuous mobilization efforts, commanders report that fresh reinforcements are not arriving fast enough to replace battlefield losses, or in other words, dead people. The situation has led to a weakening of Ukraine's defensive lines, further complicating military operations as Russian forces repeatedly gain ground in several sectors. Since the start of martial law in 2022, the desperation to avoid conscription has driven many men to take dangerous routes out of the country. According to Ukraine's border guard service, around 50 men have drowned while attempting to cross the Tisa River into Romania. These fatal incidents underscore the severe social and humanitarian toll of Ukraine's ongoing military draft and the widespread desire among many young men to evade frontline service. In the face of this conscription crisis, the Ukrainian armed forces have taken measures to try and lure young people to join the national army by offering attractive financial benefits, such as a generous salary, large bonuses, and an interest-free home loan that they'll never get to use because the Russians will kill them on the battlefield. And they say, hey, we're going to give you all this stuff, but you got to go out there and bop, 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 bop. And then you know what happens after that. The old bait and switch. Meanwhile, in Israel, same thing with the ultra-Orthodox, as we'll die rather than enlist. Math or ultra-Orthodox rally shakes Israel. So Jerusalem's western entrance turned into a sea of black coats and banners yesterday as crowds of ultra-Orthodox Jews poured in for what organizers call the Million Man March. Or shouldn't they call it the Million Mensch March? By early, don't cancel me. By early afternoon, the city was effectively shut down. Trains stopped running, roads were sealed, and the Itzhak Navon train station closed after tens of thousands arrived from across the country. The third rail. Oh, that's the Nature Boy. He's friends with Marcus over there at Political Matrix. Good show. He's good guy. Video circulating online showed what the day looked like from the ground. Streets jammed with buses, a wall of chanting men, and an overwhelmed police presence. That sounds like one of my parties. In one clip that quickly spread across Israeli social media, Channel 12 correspondent Inbal Tvizer tried to deliver a live report while being bombarded with bottles and insults. The government's plan to draft ultra-Orthodox men into the army has divided Israel for decades, but this time the tension boiled over. Demonstrators filled highways and junctions, waving signs declaring we'll die rather than enlist. Highway 1, the main road to Jerusalem, was closed between Latrun and the city's entrance. A police officer was injured near Matzah after being hit by a bus reversing in the traffic chaos. And I was going to say hit by a ball, and it would be like a matzah. Okay. Then in the late afternoon, tragedy struck. A 15-year-old boy fell to his death from the 20th floor of a construction site overlooking the protest area, as many young demonstrators had climbed into the half-built towers to watch the rally from above. Emergency crews struggled to reach the site through the packed streets. The boy was found with critical injuries and pronounced dead at the scene. Police announced an investigation and ordered the rally to disperse. His ultra-Orthodox allies, Shas and United Torah Judaism, rejected any plan that would force their followers to serve. They threatened to bring down the coalition unless the government softened the bill. Inside the Knesset, Netanyahu replaced Yuli Edelstein, head of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, with Boaz Bismuth. It sounds like a Harry Potter name. A loyal Likud lawmaker. Bismuth drafted a new version that allegedly removed penalties, erased enlistment quotas, and redefined who qualifies as Haredi. The bill is due to be discussed next week after the prime minister asked for more time to review it. Leaks of the document published by Israeli N12 set off a political storm. Opposition lawmakers and reservist organizations accuse the government of abandoning the principle of equal service. This is not a draft law, it's a surrender, one opposition member told Israeli radio this week. There's a lady there. When the images of the protest spread, opposition leader Yair Lapid responded in a video statement that quickly went viral. I want to say to all these young people who went to this disgraceful "will die rather than enlist" demonstration in Jerusalem, if you're able to travel to a protest, you're able to travel to an induction center. If you're able to march in the street, you're able to march in basic training and defend the state of Israel. If you're able to talk, you're able to spew propaganda just like the rest of us. Lapid ended with a promise. What has been won't be any longer. Everyone will enlist, everyone will work, everyone will defend the state. Across the street, Major Yoav Adomi, one of the founders of the reservists, watched from the counter-protest. His group organized near Binyanei Hauma. Speaking with the media line, he said, that's this thing here, this periodical. He said the gathering was about drawing a line. The Reservist Party initiated this counter-protest against the Haredi demonstration, opposing the draft law, Adomi explained. All the organizations representing those who served joined us. Together we're saying enough. We will not let this disgrace continue. Adomi himself has served 350 days of reserve duty since the Gaza war began and expects another call-up in January. Our chairman, Yoaz Hendel, has done 500 days and is still in uniform, he said. There are many like us, and yet next week the Knesset is set to advance a shameful law, the Bismuth Law, 39 pages that say everything except the one thing that matters, that Haredim must enlist. It's a bill that guarantees they never will. He accused the government of being held hostage by its partners. This is what happens when a government is slaughtered by non-Zionist forces, he said. What comes out is a non-Zionist coalition producing non-Zionist laws that harm the security of the state. It's as simple as that. But you're killing non-Zionists yourself, so fuck off. Kill your egregores. Happy Halloween to you. Happy Halloween, everybody. You guys got big plans? We got this tonight. If I can, ow, it hurts. Watching Night of the Living Dead tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on these same channels. So if you want to hang out, my buddy Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show, Chuck the Alien, will be with us as we make fun of the movie. But it's really a good movie. It's, for its time, 1968, not bad. For low budget, but we'll have fun with it too. Sometimes people go out to parties or whatever, but come hang out with us if you got nothing better to do. Meanwhile, Israel detains 2 U.S. citizens helping Palestinian farmers in the West Bank. Oh, cool. Excellent. Brains. Unfortunately, the host will not have brains to eat, so zombies will starve. Israel detained 2 American citizens on Wednesday who were participating in an initiative to help Palestinian olive growers harvest their crop in the West Bank and are now being deported from Israel, local media reported. The report says that the 2 women are in Israel on a 4-month educational program with the Solidarity of Nations Akvat Amim organization, and were volunteering in the village of Berwyn, not Berwyn, for the harvest work with the Rabbis for Human Rights Group. This is the second incident in 2 weeks in which activists supporting Palestinian olive growers have been detained for entering the closed military zone that was imposed on Berwyn on October 16th. The police are arresting solidarity activists coming to support Palestinian farmers due to the settler violence against them during the olive harvest, instead of arresting the violent settlers who are making the presence of the solidarity activists necessary, said Becca Strober, spokesperson for Solidarity of Nations. According to Strober, 11 activists traveled to Berwyn on Wednesday morning, but were stopped at an Israeli checkpoint and later detained after trying an alternative route. So you can't even get the olive trees picked without these psychopaths trying to fuck with them, where are we at here? Sorry. Okay. All right. So, Al-Shifa Hospital, patients are dying due to a lack of medical supplies because of Israel's fuckery. The director of the Al-Shifa Hospital explained that due to shortages of medical supplies, Palestinians are dying from treatable injuries. He said Israel has allowed less than 10% of the necessary healthcare material into the strip over the past 2 years. Speaking with Al Jazeera, Dr. Mohammed Abu Salmiya warned that there was a catastrophic shortage of medical supplies. He said the scarcity led to patients dying of treatable injuries following Israeli strikes earlier this week. On Tuesday, Israel killed over 100 Palestinians, including 46 children. There's your ceasefire. The escalation only exacerbated the already dire and collapsing health system in the complete absence of everything, Salmiya said. It was a massacre. The wounded were dying right before our eyes, and we are powerless to provide them with any medical attention. Abu Salmiya argued that U.S.-backed Israeli siege of Gaza caused the shortage. He explained that less than 10% of the necessary medical supplies have entered the strip. Throughout the war, Palestinian doctors and international aid agencies have reported doctors lacking basic medical supplies such as gauze and anesthesia. The shortages have led to children receiving amputations without anesthesia. Jesus. Along with people dying from war injuries, Dr. Abu Salmiya said there was an increasing risk to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians with chronic health conditions such as diabetes. Under the terms of the ceasefire, Israel agreed to allow 600 aid trucks into Gaza each day. 11 days into the truce, the Gaza media office reported just 15% of the agreed upon number of trucks had reached Gaza, according to UN data. The daily number of trucks from aid groups has never surpassed 200 during the ceasefire. Abu Salmiya noted the war had been particularly deadly for infants. He said newborn mortality now exceeds 40,000 in Gaza. Kate, his name is the Nature Boy. He's friends with Marcus from the Political Matrix. That's how I know him. He's a good guy. He has, just does a little political show, stuff like that. But his name, he goes by the Nature Boy. It's not Ric Flair, though. He has flair, but he's not Ric Flair. So hopefully that eases any sort of mystery there. Meanwhile, Turkey says its disaster response team awaiting Israeli approval to enter Gaza. The Turkish Defense Ministry said on Thursday that its disaster response team is still waiting by the Gaza border for Israeli approval to enter for search and rescue operations, according to Al Jazeera. Quoting an official, AFAD is still waiting at the border. Israel still did not issue any authorization for the team to enter, the source said, referring to Turkey's disaster relief agency, which is waiting on the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing with a team of 81 specialists. On October 16th, Turkey offered an expert team specializing in body retrieval based on their experience with earthquake recovery, U.S. officials said. Yeah, Turkey has some really bad earthquakes there. And Gaza looks like an earthquake zone. Yeah, he's a good guy. On October 16th, Turkey offered an expert team specializing in just recently, we had Turkey call us up on the phone because they have an 81-man team that is as expert as there is in body retrieval. We think we're going to bring them in with a lot of other people as well, one advisor said. Advisors also confirmed plans to establish a reward program in Gaza. We're probably going to put together some sort of program where we're going to ask people to see if they can help us to locate bodies, and we're going to pay rewards for that type of good behavior. What did you do today, honey? Oh, I made some money. What'd you do? I was looking for bodies. Nature Boy. There's also so you have Nature Boy Ric Flair, but you also have the Nature Boy Buddy Landell. Remember the Nature Boy? If you're a wrestling fan, and if you're not, I don't want to know you. I'm not a big fan of modern wrestling. I like the 80s and 70s wrestling. I think it was a little more wholesome, right? That local stuff, good stuff. Now it's all glitz and glamour. And meanwhile, Pakistan and Afghanistan have resumed talks amid tensions, or they will resume talks amid tensions over border clashes. So wars, and rumors of war. Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to resume talks in Istanbul, not Constantinople, at the request of mediator Turkey, after earlier rounds between Islamabad and Kabul failed to resolve spiraling tensions between the neighbors that have exploded into military clashes in recent weeks. Pakistani security officials said Islamabad's delegation had been planning to depart from the Turkish city after a previous round of talks spanning 4 days ended in a deadlock. Now, however, the team will remain in Istanbul, not Constantinople, to continue negotiations as well. Pakistan has once again stressed that Afghan soil should not be used for terrorism against Pakistan. We appreciate the constructive role of our hosts and remain committed to seeking a peaceful resolution in good faith, a security official told Al Jazeera, on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the dialogue. Afghan media have also reported, quoting sources, that after the intervention of host Turkey and mediator Qatar, the two countries have agreed to resume their talks, which had ended earlier this week. The two neighbors were engaged in a week-long border conflict this month in which both sides suffered casualties. After the skirmishes, mediation by Qatar and Turkey led to a ceasefire signed by the defense ministers of Pakistan and Afghanistan on October 19th in Doha in the presence of officials from both mediating nations. The subsequent round of talks began in Istanbul, not Constantinople, on Saturday and continued for 4 days, but the parties failed to reach a consensus on Islamabad's central demand that Kabul crack down on Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, that's the TTP, an armed group often called the Pakistan Taliban. probably because it rhymes, which has been long accused by Pakistan of carrying out deadly attacks inside the territory. The TTP emerged in 2007 during the U.S.-led War on Terror, in air quotes, and has since waged a sustained campaign against the Pakistani state. Islamabad accuses Kabul of providing sanctuary not only to the TTP, but also to other arms groups, including the Balochistan Liberation Army, the BLA, and the ISIS affiliate in Khorasan province, the ISKP, which is not to be confused with ISBN, which is kind of a number that it's used to track books and stuff. The Afghan Taliban denies the allegations. The Afghan Taliban, who took power for a second time in August 2021 after the withdrawal of U.S. forces, has maintained that the TTP issued an internal Pakistani, the issue is an internal Pakistani matter. They have also long considered ISKP a rival and enemy. After Pakistan confirmed the failure of the previous talks, Defense Minister Khawaja Asif issued a lengthy statement on tweeters warning of an all-out attack against the Afghan Taliban. He accuses the regime of blindly pushing Afghanistan into yet another conflict just to retain its usurped role and maintain the war economy that sustains them. The warmongers amongst the Taliban regime who have vested interest in the continuation of instability in the region should know that they have probably misread our resolve and courage, Asif wrote on Wednesday. So far, the Afghan Taliban has not responded to Asif's remarks. Sweden-based security researcher Abdul Saeed, who studies armed groups in South and Central Asia, said Asif's comments signaled that Pakistan was prepared to resume airstrikes in Afghanistan, but the decision to return to negotiations reflected a potential shift. Yeah, take your time, finger man. Well, I'll pause the show for you, okay? Okay, that was enough. Had to pause anyway. The resumption of dialogue suggests either that the issue causing the earlier deadlock has been resolved or that the Pakistani delegation, at the mediator's request, has shown flexibility in its stance to make another attempt to resolve the matter through negotiation, Saeed told Al Jazeera. Asif, in an interview to a TV channel on Wednesday, also alleged that India was waging a low-intensity war in Pakistan. Don't forget, those two can't stand each other. Through the Afghan Taliban, claiming Islamabad possesses evidence of Indian involvement. He, however, did not share any evidence to back his claim, of course. Pakistan and India engaged in a 4-day conflict in May, while New Delhi accuses Islamabad of harboring armed groups that launch cross-border attacks. Pakistan has historically alleged that India supports Baloch separatist groups demanding an independent Balochistan, Pakistan's Pakistan's mineral-rich province. Ooh, mineral-rich. This year, however, also saw a thaw in relations between the Afghan Taliban and the Indian government. A series of meetings and diplomatic exchanges culminated in a visit to New Delhi by Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Mutaki this month. Syed noted the recent escalation along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border began during Mutaki's visit to India. Pakistan has long maintained that India uses Afghan territory to create challenges for it, even during the rule of the Afghan Taliban. Traditionally, Pakistan's long-standing allies, these concerns persisted, he said. Within the tensions of Islamabad-Kabul relations, India remains a crucial factor, Saeed said. So, yeah. So hopefully there's some peace talks there that actually stick. Meanwhile, Myanmar rebels signed ceasefire with military after China-mediated talks. So maybe some of these conflicts are starting to die down. I doubt it very, very much. A major ethnic rebel group in Myanmar announced Wednesday it signed a ceasefire deal with the military following China-mediated talks, easing months of intense fighting in the country's northeast near the Chinese border. The ceasefire with the Taang's National Liberation Army, or TNLA, marks a significant victory for Myanmar's military government, which has regained territories ahead of elections scheduled to start December 28th. Critics see the polls, which exclude the main opposition parties, as an attempt to legitimize and maintain the military's rule. The ceasefire was signed during talks mediated by China on Monday and Tuesday in Kunming, a Chinese provincial capital about 400 kilometers or about 250 miles from the border with Myanmar, the TNLA said in a statement Wednesday on the Telegram. Beijing has major geopolitical and economic interests in Myanmar and is deeply concerned about instability along its borders. China is also the most important foreign ally of Myanmar's military, which took power after ousting the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi in February 2021. The takeover led to nationwide peaceful protests that escalated into civil war. Myanmar's military government did not immediately comment on the ceasefire. The announcement came after the rebels gave up control of Nong Keo, Kya Kwam, and Hisapa, three strategic towns on a major highway linking central Myanmar to China, back to the army in a fierce military offensive. The TNLA statement said the ceasefire began Wednesday. The rebels said they would withdraw troops from Mogok. That one was easy to say. The Ruby Mining Center in the upper Mandalay region of the neighboring town of Momik in the northern part of Shan State. As part of the agreement, though no timeline was provided. The two towns had been under the control of the TNLA, which represents the Tang ethnic minority, since July last year. In return, the military agreed to stop its ground offenses and airstrikes on the group's remaining territories, the TNLA said. The rebels have no effective defense against airstrikes. The TNLA is part of the Three Brotherhood Alliance, which also includes the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army and the Arakan Army. They have been fighting for decades for greater autonomy from Myanmar's central government and are loosely allied with the pro-democracy resistance groups that emerged after the army takeover. Since October 2023, that's an ominous time, the alliance captured and controlled significant swaths of northeastern Myanmar near the Chinese border and in western Myanmar. The TNLA alone seized 12 towns in an offensive. Their advance slowed following a series of China-brokered ceasefires earlier this year, allowing the army to retake major cities, including Lashio City in April and Nongyo in July, as well as Kayokwami and Hesipa in October. You go with that. And that with those messed up names. In Tanzania post-election unrest spills into Kenya as police lob tear gas over the border. Interesting. They said, screw it, we're doing it over the border, y'all. Tanzania's post-electoral unrest isn't confined to the country. It's now spilling over into neighboring Kenya. The town of Namanga, like manga, like the comic book, Namanga. The town of Namanga is divided by the Tanzania-Kenya border. Tanzanian protesters fled into Kenya to avoid confrontations with police, but officers then threw tear gas canisters over the border. Businesses have been forced to close because of the unrest, and trucks transporting goods are stuck at the frontier. Taliban Onyango is a trader of the Kenyan side of the border. The challenge we have today is that we are not able to operate businesses because of the elections in Tanzania. The Tanzanian police are lobbing tear gas at us. Now we have nothing to feed our kids. We're asking our government to maintain peace at the border so we can go on with our businesses, and the same for the Tanzanians. The Kenyan side of Namanga has also been hit by the internet blackout imposed by Tanzanian authorities since Wednesday's presidential election. Amnesty International has called for the government to restore internet connectivity, warning that restricting information could lead to further unrest. For now, protesters are reportedly using walkie-talkie apps on their phones to plan their next steps. According to Kenyan media reports, journalists wanting to cross the border into Tanzania have been barred from entering the country. Yeah, so, yeah, it's crazy. Just like right there, just over the border. There you go. In Sudan, oops, did I do that? Did I do that? Sorry. Both sides in Sudan guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. That's according to UN. There's always atrocities, it seems like, on either side of any kind of conflict like that. Both of the warring factions in Sudan's civil war, the Sudanese Armed Forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, are committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, according to the UN's independent international fact-finding mission for Sudan. Speaking on behalf of the mission, which presented its investigative report to the UN General Assembly's Third Committee yesterday, Joy Gozi Azilo said its investigations documented large-scale atrocities committed by both sides, including ethnically targeted executions, sexual violence, and the deliberate use of starvation as a weapon of war. Again, that sounds familiar. Describing the findings as direct and harrowing, she continued, our initial investigations point to a deliberate pattern of ethnically targeted executions of unarmed civilians, assaults, sexual assault, widespread looting, and destruction of vital infrastructure and mass forced displacement. The mission said the atrocities had intensified during and after the fall of the besieged city of El Fasher to the RSF when civilians, particularly those from non-Arab communities, were targeted. Our fact-finding mission has gathered verified videos and testimonies showing ongoing attacks against civilians, Azilo said. The RSF's campaign in El Fasher and the nearby Zamzam and Abu Shak camps included mass killings, torture, rape, sexual slavery, pillaging, forced displacement, and starvation tactics, the mission found. Thousands of civilians, mostly from non-Arab communities, were killed. Widespread sexual violence is characterized as conflict, Azilo said, adding that women and girls, some as young as 10 years old, were subjected to rape, gang rape, and sexual slavery and forced marriage. Men and boys, too, fell victim to sexual violence. These crimes are not isolated incidents, but part of a deliberate strategy to punish, intimidate, and erase ethnic identity, she said. The mission concluded that these large-scale, systematic, and lethal attacks amounted to war crimes and crimes against humanity, including persecution of intersecting gender, political, and ethnic grounds. The fact-finders also accused the RSF's rival, the Sudanese Armed Forces, of serious violations amounting to war crimes. These included indiscriminate airstrikes on populated areas and civilian infrastructure, reprisal attacks against civilians, and failure to protect hospitals, medical workers, and humanitarian operations. Azilo said the mission was particularly concerned that 2 senior World Food Program officials had been ordered to leave Sudan on Wednesday, exacerbating an already dire humanitarian situation. Destruction of essential infrastructure has defined this war, Azilo said, highlighting attacks by both the SAF and RSF on hospitals, markets, water systems, and humanitarian convoys. Less than a quarter of health facilities remain operational, and nearly 25 million people face acute food insecurity. The combination of starvation tactics, mass killings, and destruction of infrastructure by the RSF may amount to extermination as a crime against humanity, the mission warned. Civic life across Sudan has collapsed, Azilo said, with cities and towns in ruins and more than 11 million people displaced inside and outside the country. 11 million people, Jesus. Humanitarian access remains blocked amid worsening levels of starvation and disease among trapped civilians. Those who have fled El Fasher include wounded and unaccompanied children, while women face sexual violence during their desperate journeys to escape the city. This is only the latest chapter in the book of brutality, Azilo said. According to the investigators, authorities in Sudan are unwilling and unable to conduct genuine investigations or prosecutions relating to international crimes. The country's justice system is marked by impunity, selective justice, lack of fair trial guarantees, and a failure to protect victims or provide remedies, they said. Again, that sounds familiar. Our report, therefore, sets out a path to justice through inclusive Sudanese dialogue, Azilo said. Victims and survivors have the right to know the truth about violations committed, the fate of the missing, and the role of authorities, she added, as well as the right to see perpetrators held accountable through fair trials. The mission called for expansion of the International Criminal Court, that's the ICC's jurisdiction, over all of Sudan, and the creation of an independent judicial mechanism to complement the work of the court. Azilo welcomed the ICC's October 6 judgment in a trial that began in 2022, which found former Janjaweed militia leader Ali Kushaib guilty of 27 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur more than 20 years ago. She described the verdict as proof that accountability is possible. The RSF primarily consists of Janjaweed militias. She also urged states to apply universal jurisdiction to the prosecution of international crimes, saying this was not interference but a shared duty to uphold international law. Azilo said justice must include reparations and stressed that victims cannot wait for peace to receive assistance. The mission proposed the creation of a specialist office for victim support and reparations to help provide interim aid, including shelter, food, medical care, psychological support, education, and livelihood assistance. It also called on all states to use their influence to halt the fighting and achieve peace, and urged all parties involved in the war to cease hostilities, protect civilians, and respect the principles of international law. However, it warned that peace in the country cannot be sustained without reforms. Sustainable peace requires transforming Sudan's justice and security sectors. The mission said reforms are needed to end the immunity for state actors, align Sudan's domestic laws with international standards, restore judicial independence, and ensure no one is above the law. These reforms must be rooted in an inclusive democratic transition, Azilo said, and women must be at the center of these efforts. She concluded, justice is not optional, it is the path to peace, for without justice, peace is a mirage. Very wise words there. Meanwhile, survivors fleeing Sudan's El Fasher recount terror and bodies in the streets. A lot of talking and mispronouncing words today. My apologies for both. People who have fled the western city of El Fasher in war-torn Sudan are recounting scenes of horrific violence at the hands of the paramilitary rapid support forces, as we just told you, as aid workers say they fear only a fraction of the besieged city's residents have managed to escape. The RSF has killed at least 1,500 people in El Fasher, capital of North Darfur State, since seizing it Sunday, according to the Sudan Doctors Network, including at least 460 at a hospital in a widely condemned massacre. More than 36,000 people have fled since Saturday, largely on foot, to Tawila, a town around 70 kilometers, about 43 miles west, that is already sheltering roughly 650,000 displaced people. Remember, there's 11 million displaced people in Sudan. Hayat, a mother of 5 children, told the AFP news agency via satellite phone that 7 RSF fighters ransacked her home, searched her undergarments, and killed her 16-year-old son in front of her. As she fled with neighbors, we saw many dead bodies lying on the ground and wounded people left behind in the open because their families couldn't carry them, she recalled. Another survivor named Hussein was wounded by shelling but made it to Tawila with the help of a family carrying their mother on a donkey cart. The situation in El Fasher is so terrible, dead bodies in the streets and no one to bury them, he said. We're grateful we made it here, even if we only have the clothes we were wearing. Aisha Ismail, another displaced person from El Fasher, recounted to the AP, shelling and drones were happening all the time, the attacks. They hit us with the back of the rifles day and night until we hid in the houses. At 3 a.m, we sneaked outside the houses till we arrived to Hilat al-Sheth, an area in northern Darfur where we were looted. They left us with nothing. I came here barefoot. Even my shoes were taken. Al Jazeera's Heba Morgan, reporting from Khartoum, said thousands of people are continuing to flee El Fasher. She cited the Sudan Doctors Network, which tracks the country's civil war, as saying that at least 1,500 people have arrived to Tawila in the past 48 hours. Many of them are in desperate need of medical assistance as a result of walking for days without food and water and suffering injuries, Morgan said. Matilda Vu, advocacy manager for the Norwegian Refugee Council, which manages the Tawila camp, told the AP the number of people who made it to Tawila is very small. Where are the others, she said? That tells the horror of the journey. The UN humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, warned that the catastrophic level of human suffering has descended into an even darker hell in El Fasher. In an address to the UN Security Council, which has held an emergency meeting on the situation in Sudan on Thursday, Fletcher expressed alarm over reports of mass killings by the RSF, saying the horror is continuing with utter impunity. Raising the alarm over the dire humanitarian situation in Tooele, he noted that the area is already hosting hundreds of thousands of people displaced by previous attacks and is now at breaking point. Those who attempted to flee to Tooele in the southwest face extortion, rape, while men have been abducted or killed on the road, Fletcher said. According to him, attempts to bring in aid have been blocked by the RSF. The UN moved to approve a $20 million allocation for Sudan from the Central Emergency Response Fund to help scale up response efforts in Tooele and elsewhere in Darfur. UN Secretary General spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric, it's not delivery, it's Dujarric, said Wednesday. The UN was horrified by the slaughter of more than 450 people at Saudi hospital where patients, health workers, and residents had sought shelter, Dujarric added. Elderly people, the wounded, and those with disabilities remain stranded and unable to flee the area, he said. Shayna Lewis, a Sudan specialist, told Al Jazeera the massacre of civilians was most devastating because we in civil society have been warning the international community for over a year about the atrocity risks for the civilian populations of North Darfur. For 18 months before Sudan's army withdrew from the city, an RSF siege had trapped hundreds of thousands of people inside without food or essentials. What's most astonishing, Lewis added, was the ability to see the bloodshed from outer space. Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab reported satellite imagery shows clusters of objects consistent with human bodies and large areas of red discoloration on the ground. God damn, you could see it from space. Yeah, I mean, I know we don't do a lot of stories on Sudan, but I always like to come back and check in and see what is happening there. And you're seeing all these skirmishes, all these, civil war and stuff just breaking out practically all over the world. And then of course you couple that with the fuckery of the United States. And to say that we're on track for World War III, I think we're already in World War III. It's just hasn't heated up to the extent that we think it's going to, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Good news for China, though. If you're a space nut, China says it's on track to land astronauts on the moon by 2030 ahead of space station mission. They're building super trains and infrastructure and going to space. And what are we doing? We're starving our people. China said Thursday it's on track to land astronauts on the moon by 2030. That's only 5 years from now. Used to 2030 sounded like way off in the future, but now it's 5 years. As it introduced the next crew of astronauts who will head to its space station as part of the country's ambitious plans to be a leader in space exploration. Currently, each program of the research and development work of putting a person on the moon is progressing smoothly, said Zhang Jingbo, a spokesman for the China Manned Space Program, citing the Long March 10 rocket, moon landing suits, and exploration vehicle as fruitful efforts of that work. Our fixed goal of China landing a person on the moon by 2030 is firm. China is also preparing to send up its latest rotation of astronauts who make up part of the ongoing missions to complete the Tiangong space station, part of its broader space exploration plans. Each team stays inside the station for 6 months conducting research. The latest crew joining others on the station will be made up of Zhang Lu, Wu Fei, and Zhang Hongjiang. They will take off from the Jiuquan Launch Center Friday. That's today at 11:44 p.m. in China. Zhang was previously part of the Zhenzhou 15 mission to the station. For Wu and Zhang, this will be their first time in space. The astronauts will also carry 4 mice with them on the trip, 2 male and 2 female. They will study the effects of weightlessness and confinement on the animals as they get busy, or whatever the mice do. I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing the nasty. China began to work on the Tiangong, or Heavenly Palace, after the country was excluded from the International Space Station over U.S. national security concerns over the Chinese space program's direct link to the People's Liberation Army. Up in space. Here we go. The Chinese will get there. They'll probably build a base, and they'll build a base, and they'll have super trains on the moon. The Great Wall of Luna will be up there. So Israel, in a rare act of somewhat decency, is showing leaked video about how Palestinian prisoners are being raped. Is this true? What are they actually doing it for? We'll find out after these messages.
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
I don't know why that does that twice. Israel launches probe into leak of video showing troops raping Palestinian prisoner. Israel releases. Israel is set to launch a criminal investigation to determine who leaked footage from the infamous City Dearman detention center, not the actual stuff itself, which showed the alleged rape of a Palestinian detainee. So they don't care about what actually happened. They care about who leaked the footage. See, the decision made by Attorney General of Israel, Gali Barav Miara, was announced Wednesday and will include a probe into individuals who distributed the video aired by the Israeli Channel 12 in early August last year. Several lawmakers and ministers, including 3 who joined a storming of the prison after soldiers suspected of raping a prisoner were detained, have praised Baharav Miara's decision. Defense Minister Israel Katz said he welcomes and supports the launch of the criminal probe, calling it a serious affair. It created a blood libel against Israeli soldiers. Well, maybe if the Israeli soldiers hadn't done the shit that they done, there wouldn't be a blood libel, would there, Mr. Katz? Previously, a number of Israeli officials, including far-right ministers Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, also the lapdogs of Satan, called for a probe to be opened to look into individuals who captured the video and leaked it. Smotrich demanded an immediate criminal investigation to locate the leakers of the trending video. He added that the leaked clip was intended to harm the reservists and cause tremendous damage to Israel in the world. He urged a move to exhaust the full severity of the law against them. In other words, they told the truth. It showed the real truth of what's going on, and we can't have that. The footage published last year purportedly showed soldiers in Dearman raping a Palestinian detainee after forming a human barrier around him. Since Israel's war on Gaza began 2 years ago, many Palestinians detained by Israeli forces have said they were sexually abused by troops at City Dearman. However, no one had been arrested for the abuse until July 29th, when military police raided the facility, clashed with soldiers, and took them into custody. The incident created a backlash in Israel, with a far-right mob, which included an MP and a minister, storming the detention center and a military court in protest against the arrests. Torture, rape, and murder have all been reported as rife at the facility, one of several facilities where Palestinians have been mistreated for decades. On July 15th last year, Israel's High Court issued a conditional order seeking to close City Dearman in response to the reports of abuse. The court's order seeks an explanation as to why the City Dearman detention facility is not operated in accordance with the conditions set forth in the law governing internment of unlawful combatants. I'll get it out eventually. However, the facility continues to operate, with fresh testimonies from former detainees recalling torture, starvation, medical neglect, and poor detainment conditions. Investigations by Middle East Eye, CNN, and the New York Times found widespread examples of abuse at the center. And this was also the prison where some of the flotilla folks were detained and said they had complained about some the things that had happened to them too. And speaking of detained Palestinians, Israel bans Red Cross visits to detained Palestinians. We'll get there. Israel has banned the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, from visiting Palestinian prisoners detained under a law targeting, quote, unlawful combatants, the country's defense minister said on Wednesday. The opinions presented to me leave no doubt that Red Cross visits to the terrorists in prison would seriously harm the state's security. The safety of the state and our citizens comes first, Israel Katz, that asshole, said, according to a statement from his office. The order, which was issued just hours before the country's top court had a hearing on the issue, prohibits the ICRC from visiting thousands of detainees named in a list attached to it. In practice, the order will legalize the status quo that has prevailed since the war in Gaza started after Hamas's unprecedented October 7th attack on Israel. Under Israeli law, the category of unlawful combatants introduced in 2002 allows for indefinite detention of individuals without charge in military detention centers. The ICRC says it has not been allowed to visit detainees in jail since then, save for pre-release interviews conducted under Gaza ceasefire and prisoner exchange deals. The purpose of the ICRC visits to places of detention and those deprived of their liberty is purely humanitarian, it said. We aim to assess the treatment and conditions of detainees and work with the detaining authorities on ensuring these conditions are according to international standards, as well as restoring contact between the detainees and their families. Several NGOs had already told AFP, even before the decree, of delays and complications faced by lawyers seeking to visit Palestinian prisoners. The order comes as Israeli lawmakers prepare to vote on a bill that would legalize the execution of Palestinian detainees. According to the NGOs, the Israeli Prison Administration argues that such visits could be used to send or receive messages to and from Palestinian Islamist groups. During Wednesday's court hearing, the state's lawyer Ron Rosenberg said that a decision had been made to allow the transfer of information to the Red Cross, which would be implemented in the coming days. The information will only include names and detention facilities, Rosenberg said, and would only be given for prisoners not associated with Gaza or Hamas. I thought everybody was Hamas. However, Rosenberg said that access to prisoners would be prevented until all hostages are back from Gaza. The Association for Civil Rights in Israel, or ACRI, which filed a petition to grant the ICRC access to Israeli prisons, told AFP that some of the combatants are held in military detention centers and others in regular Israeli jails. It said that before the ceasefire deal that began on October 10th, the Israeli Prison Service was holding 2,673 prisoners categorized as unlawful combatants. It added that hundreds were released under the deal in exchange for captives held in the Gaza Strip. On Tuesday, the Israeli military accused Hamas of faking its search for the bodies of deceased hostages still in Gaza in order to stall the return process. Providing drone footage as evidence, it said that Hamas staged a bodies discovery in front of ICRC staff who have facilitated the transfer of captives and prisoners. The ICRC said it was unaware the body had been pre-positioned ahead of its team's arrival, as its neutral role does not include unearthing of the bodies of the deceased. In a statement, the ICRC called the staged discovery unacceptable, noting so much depends on this agreement being upheld. Yeah. Lawyers for British political commentator Sami Hamdi are challenging his U.S. detention in court. We told you about this the other day. Here's a little update for you. There we go. Okay. Attorneys for Sami Hamdi, a British political commentator being held by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE baby, in California, are challenging his detention in court, his legal team said Wednesday. Hamdi, who is Muslim, was detained Sunday by ICE officers at San Francisco International Airport, according to federal officials. His lawyers say the arrest was triggered by his criticism of the Israeli government while U.S. officials have pointed to comments he made after Hamas's October 7th attacks, which they claim celebrated the violence. The detention was the latest in broader efforts by the administration to identify and potentially expel thousands of foreigners in the U.S. who it says have either fomented or participated in unrest or publicly supported protests against Israel's military operations in Gaza. And everyone say it with me together: without evidence. Those enforcement actions have been criticized by civil rights groups as violation of constitutional protections for freedoms of speech, which apply to anyone in the United States and not just to American citizens. Lawyers with the Council on American Islamic Relations, that's CAIR, who are representing Hamdi, said on Tuesday filed a writ of habeas corpus demanding that the government justify why he's being held, the council said. In addition, they asked a judge to issue a temporary restraining order seeking a bond hearing and blocking Hamdi's removal from the U.S. while the case is adjudicated. If the government can cancel a valid visa because it does not like what a person says, then anyone legally visiting, studying, or working in our country is in danger of politically motivated abduction, the group said in a statement. This must end with Sami Hamdi. The advocacy group says Hamdi was detained in response to his vocal criticism of the Israeli government during the U.S. speaking tour. On Saturday, he had addressed the annual gala for the group's Sacramento, California chapter. Hamdi was scheduled to speak at the group's event in Florida on Sunday. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin called Hamdi's court filings a desperate Hail Mary attempt to keep an illegal alien and terrorist sympathizer in the United States. Following the October 7th terror attack, Sami Hamdi cheered on Hamas, McLaughlin said in a statement Wednesday. Under President Trump, my daddy, those who support terrorism and undermine American national security will not be allowed to work or visit this country. That's just common sense, Mama Shama. In her garbled statement, McLaughlin cited remarks Hamdi made in a video posted online shortly after the Hamas attacks, in which he asked, "How many of you felt in your hearts when you got the news that it happened? How many of you felt the euphoria? Allah Akbar." Hamdi said later his intent was not to praise the attacks, but to suggest that the violence was a natural consequence of the oppression that is being put on the Palestinians. Which is true. I said Sunday that Hamdi entered the U.S. on October 19th on a visitor visa, which was revoked on October 24th, and he was placed in immigration proceedings for removal. So, yeah, come to the land of the free, except free speech. That you got to pay for. Where are we at? What's next? So, with all this going on with the troops here in the United States going to these cities, okay, all right, go. You're gonna wonder who's next, right? Which city is going to be bombarded with National Guard members? Well, Pentagon orders states' National Guards to form quick reaction forces for crowd control. So that was, Trump had said this, that he wanted that to happen, and now it's actually, I guess it's going to happen. A top U.S. military official has ordered the National Guards of all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories to form quick reaction forces trained in riot control, all 50 states and the territories and D.C., including use of batons, body shields, tasers, and pepper spray, according to an internal Pentagon directive reviewed by The Guardian. The memo, signed on October 8th by Major General Ronald Burkett, the Director of Operations for the Pentagon's National Guard Bureau, sets thresholds for the size of the quick reaction force to be trained in each state, with most states required to train 500 National Guard members for a total of 23,500 troops nationwide. As authority, Burkett cited Donald Trump's August executive order that deployed the Guard to fight crime in Washington, D.C. The same order required the Secretary of Defense, they don't call it the War Department, to create a standing National Guard quick reaction force available for rapid nationwide deployment in quelling civil disturbances. If they're disturbances, are they actually civil? Janessa Goldbeck, a former U.S. Marine Corps captain and chief executive of the Vet Voice Foundation, a nonprofit advocacy group, said the order represented an attempt by the president to normalize a national militarized police force. She predicted that force would be used to send troops to states led by Democratic governors without their permission and could be used to suppress turnout and disrupt the fair operations of elections. Yeah, there you go. In a worst-case scenario, she said the president could declare a state of emergency and say that elections are rigged and use allegations of voter fraud to seize the balance of secure voting centers. The Pentagon did not respond to repeated requests for comment. A spokesperson for the National Guard Bureau declined to comment on concerns that Trump is seeking to normalize a national militarized police force or could potentially use the force to seize ballot boxes. Abigail Jackson, a White House spokesperson, said, blah, 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 blah. Sorry. The president has lawfully deployed the National Guard to several cities, either in response to violent riots that local leaders have refused to quell or by invitation to assist local law enforcement as appropriate. President Trump and the entire administration is working to make America safe again, safe from Democrats. She added, the tremendous results from cities like Memphis and D.C., where crime has significantly dropped following National Guard deployments, debunk all the fear-mongering lies from The Guardian. Ooh. Shots fired. The October 8th memo says the Pentagon will deploy military trainers to every state and U.S. territories as far away as Guam, with a goal of making the Quick Reaction Forces operational by January 1st next year. Each state will also be provided 100 sets of crowd control equipment to be used to support this requirement. 100 sets of crowd control. What that is? Among other things, the troops are to be trained how to form squad-size riot control formation, how to employ a riot baton as a member of a riot control formation, and how to supervise a riot/crowd control operation. National Guard members are also to be trained in de-escalation of force techniques. Each state is to report monthly on its progress. I wonder if that de-escalation of force techniques, do they mean themselves? Another Pentagon document reviewed by The Guardian, dated September 24th, mandates the creation of a specialized military police battalion within the District of Columbia National Guard that is dedicated to ensuring safety and public order in the nation's capital as the circumstances may necessitate. The order requires that a 50-person full-time element of this unit be trained and ready for utilization within 90 days and reach full strength by 2027. While creation of national quick reaction forces was not unprecedented, they typically occurred after a serious emergency. According to Christopher Purdy, a National Guard veteran of the war in Iraq. In 2005, Purdy noted that more than 50,000 National Guard troops were deployed after Hurricane Katrina destroyed much of New Orleans. Purdy is chief executive of the Chamberlain Network, which this week filed an amicus brief at the Supreme Court opposing Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Illinois. Military experts said the Trump administration's moves harken back to an earlier era when National Guard troops were frequently deployed to quell protests and disturbances, such as the 1970 Kent State shooting, in which 4 unarmed college students were killed by the Ohio National Guard. Yeah, you remember that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song, 4 dead in Ohio. Yeah. So this is a weird one. Doctors Without Borders were ordered to leave Libya with no reason given. They just said, shoot, get out of here. You got to go. I guess. Look, it's ice. Wait a minute. Sorry. Everywhere I see ice. It's like the Arctic. The Antarctica, I guess. The medical organization Doctors Without Borders, known by its French acronym MSF, has said it was ordered to leave Libya by November 9th with no reason given for its expulsion. MSF has already been forced to suspend its activities in the country in March and said in a statement on Wednesday that it was told to leave in a recent letter from the Libyan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. No reason has been given to justify our expulsion, and the process remains unclear. Steve Perbrick, who heads MSF's programs in Libya, said in the statement, We believe that MSF still has an important role to play in Libya, particularly in the diagnosis and treatment of tuberculosis and supporting the Libyan health system, but also in providing access to health care. I had to see if another one was coming. They always come in pairs. The sneezes. But also in providing access to healthcare for refugees and migrants who are excluded from care and subject to arbitrary detention and serious violence, he said. Perbrick said MSF's registration with the UN-recognized government remained valid, and the Geneva-based organization still hoped to find a positive solution to the situation. MSF said that in collaboration with the Libyan health authorities, it had carried out more than 15,000 medical consultations this year. Zell, what's up? What's up? More often to sandbag flood-prone areas. Yeah. So it said in collaboration with Libyan health authorities, it carried out more than 15,000 medical consultations last year. In 2023, it provided emergency medical aid following flash floods in the coastal city of Derna that killed thousands of people. Libya is split between the UN-recognized government in Tripoli, led by Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dbeibah, and a rival administration in the east. The North African country has remained divided since a NATO-backed revolt toppled and killed longtime leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. U.S. coup. CIA. Hillary. In March, MSF's premises were closed by Libya's internal security agency, and several of its staff faced interrogation, it said. This wave of repression also affected 9 other humanitarian organizations operating in the west of the country, said MSF. In a context of increasing obstruction of NGO intervention, drastic cuts in international aid funding, and the reinforcement of European border policies in collaboration with the Libyan authorities, there are now no international NGOs providing medical care to refugees and migrants in Western Libya, it said. Founded in 1971, MSF says it has more than 67,000 staff working in more than 70 countries. Yeah. Okay. So back here at home, demand for Trump's Social Security chief, Bisignano, busy? Are you busy? To resign after $30 billion implosion of former company. The new CEO of the financial services technology company, Fiserv said Wednesday that the firm's financial outlook was grim, sending its stock collapsing by more than 40% and erasing $30 billion in market value, and laid the blame squarely on a Trump administration appointee whom the president has praised as amazing, so amazing. Ow, that hurt. When nominating former Fiserv CEO Frank Bisignano, a Social Security administrator earlier this year, President Donald Trump said the executive frequently takes troubled entities and turns them around. Yes, makes them worse. With current Fiserv chief Mike Lyons warning on Wednesday that Bisignano had made major missteps as CEO, overinflating its sales projections and relying on short-term cost-cutting before selling his stock for $500 million. The advocacy group Social Security Works said beneficiaries of the government's anti-poverty program for senior citizens should be alarmed that the former executive is now in charge of their crucial benefits. Yeah, Fiserv lost 40% of its value because the former CEO, Frank Bisignano, is a liar, said SSW. But Bisignano is Trump's buddy, so he can only fail up. He's now in charge of your Social Security. Lyons told analysts and investors that when Bisignano was leading Fiserv from 2020 until earlier this year, the company made sales projections that would have been objectively difficult to achieve, even with the right investment and strong execution. He added that Bisignano made decisions to defer certain investments and cut certain costs, which improved margins in the short term, but are now limiting our ability to serve clients in a world-class way, execute product launches to our standards, and grow revenue to our full potential. Translating Lyons' comment, Brett Arends wrote at MarketWatch that under Bisignano, the company made forecasts it could not plausibly have achieved, and that the former CEO was chasing short-term quarterly results, not building the business. Lions broke the news to investors weeks after a police pension fund sued Fiserv and Bisignano, as well as the new CEO, for artificially inflating Fiserv's growth numbers. But along with causing his former company's value to plummet, emphasized SSW President Nancy Altman on Thursday, Bisignano personally benefited from overestimating his firm's performance, selling more than 3 million shares after he was appointed Social Security Administrator for at least $500 million. That sale saved him $300 million in counting in stock value, said Altman. Did Bisignano know that Fiserv's stock was about to tank and ask his friend Donald Trump for a life draft? Altman demanded that Bisignano resign immediately from his roles at the Social Security Administration and the Internal Revenue Service, where he was also named the first ever CEO earlier this month. The Internal Revenue Service, yikes. Bisignano is in charge of the American people's hard-earned Social Security benefits as well as the collection of our taxes, despite his total lack of expertise or even basic knowledge of either, said Altman. He infamously admitted that he had to Google Social Security when Trump offered him the job. He had to Google. He didn't know what. If he engaged in wrongdoing, the people need to know. Altman called on the U.S. Department of Justice and Congress to launch immediate investigation into Bisignano's conduct as CEO of Fiserv, but noted that with Republican allies of Trump running the government, the former executive is unlikely to be held accountable. The only recourse, said Altman, is for Democrats to win control of Congress and make investigating Bisignano a top priority. Yeah. The Democrats win control. They get this shit. Speaking of Democrats, hey, poll shows 25-point Mamdani lead over Cuomo. I think it's November 4th coming up is the big election day. As frantic GOP fearmongers over socialist uprising. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Republican House Speaker and human thumbnail Mike Johnson on Thursday delivered a frantic warning about progressive New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani as new polls showed him with a big lead over top rival Andrew Cuomo. Kind of a low bar there. During a news conference at the U.S. Capitol, Johnson attacked Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries for giving a lukewarm endorsement of Mamdani last week and accused the entire Democratic Party of embracing Marxism. By endorsing Mamdani, Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed and co-owned his positions, his past statements, his Marxist playbook, and everything else that guy espouses, Johnson said. So too does every single House Democrat who will be inviting their leader Jeffries to their campaigns. Captain Haircut. Johnson also said that Mamdani's candidacy was part of a socialist uprising. I don't see anything wrong with that. And that we have the responsibility to call out and sound the alarms about his rise to power. You mean to your donors? Sound the alarms to your donors, because I think the people might be ready for him. The socialist uprising that Johnson suggested people across the country should fear includes policy proposals like an expansion of fare-free public bus pilot program, a network of city-owned grocery stores, and a rent freeze on rent-stabilized apartments, which has already been enacted at least 3 times in New York City. During a Wednesday interview with Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo, Cuomo accused Mamdani of being totally out of sync with how New Yorkers feel, and then pointed to the fact that Mamdani has dual citizenship between the U.S. and Uganda. Yes. His parents own a mansion in Uganda. He spent a lot of time there, Cuomo said. He just doesn't understand the New York culture, the New York values, what 9/11 meant. 9/11 meant propaganda. Did I say that out loud? What entrepreneurial growth means, what opportunity means, why people came and why you got to cop a feel on these broads. You know what I'm saying? Bada bing, bada boom. Doesn't really sound like Cuomo, but fuck it. 2 polls released on Thursday, however, indicated that fear-mongering among Mamdani appears to be falling on deaf ears. Or maybe it's the Streisand effect. As reported by Spectrum News, and Emerson College polls showed Mamdani hitting the 50% threshold among likely voters, with Cuomo trailing by 25 percentage points. A poll from Marist, not Marxist, meanwhile showed Mamdani winning 48% of likely voters, with Cuomo receiving 32%. Although the Marist poll was better for Cuomo than the Emerson poll, it also showed that Mamdani would likely win the election, even if Republican Curtis Sliwa dropped out of the race at the last minute, as Mamdani is a theoretical head-to-head in a theoretical head-to-head matchup with Cuomo still maintained a lead of 7 percentage points. Spencer Kimball, executive director of Emerson College Polling, told Spectrum News that Mamdani's voter coalition appears to be strong heading into next week's election, as he has improved his standing among black voters while maintaining significant advantages among young voters. In fact, noted Kimball, Mamdani even has a plurality of voters over the age of 50 who support Cuomo needs to pull off an upset victory. CNN polling expert Harry Enton argued on Thursday that the latest polls show Mamdani is the overwhelming favorite to win the election, unless there's a historically unprecedented poll miss or some little New York political machine greasery. Some Cuomo fans are living in a fantasy world when it comes to the New York City mayoral race. He wrote on the tweeters, Mamdani has, if anything, widened his big lead since September. Also, early voting stats are consistent with polls showing Mamdani win. Yeah. So I think I've told you my opinion on this whole Mamdani thing. Everybody talks a good game, right? Bernie talked a good game. And look where we got. We got nothing. We got bubkus. So, and what people also fail to realize too is that Mamdani can't just do stuff on his own. He is at the mercy of the New York City Council, and a lot of those people are Zionists and shitlibs and big money people that are not going to allow a lot of these things to happen. So he's going to be fighting with these guys for 4 years. And if he doesn't do anything significant after 4 years, he's probably going to get booted out. And if he wins re-election because there's no other good choice, he's still going to fail, right? And I know some of you are saying, well, give him a chance, man. Come on. Maybe he's got some skills. He knows that. No, I don't think that's going to happen. So, but you know, I like to stay positive, but I also like to stay realistic as well. So that's our propaganda watch, brought to you by Bullshit, as always. And now we have some real news, as always, as we need to help our friends out in this community with our mutual aid. A lot of folks, a couple of our people's. What the hell's going on here? You better not fuck up on me, mouse. Sorry. You know, our folks, they need your help. And if you can't donate, if you can share out these links, all these links are down below, by the way, always in the show. You'll always see the mutual aid links down there. Oh, hello. The shit was that? Crazy lady. Aspen's plight, the fight for my baby's life. You may have heard about the Justice for Aspen. I believe INN did a fundraiser for her on Wednesday, and my buddies over there, Abby Doo, she and Mikhail, or Michael, is it Michael or Mikhail? I don't know. It spells like Mikhail. They replayed the broadcast, and hopefully there's some funds were sent to this poor young lady, who, if you don't know, she was a passenger in a vehicle in Georgia that got pulled over. The driver was busted on drug charges. So if one does it, all of them get busted, and she got swept up into that for nothing. So right now they're trying to get $12,500. They've raised about $8,400 so far. If you could share the link out, like I said, if you can't donate, that would be very helpful too. Our buddy Chanda, of course, is dealing with cancer that has come back to her. And as we know, medical bills are not cheap. She's trying to raise $10,000. She has about $6,200 raised now, which is good. The more the merrier. Our buddy Cowboy Kitty, his sister-in-law, and he told me Natalia Vichkova, she was here 9 years legally and was currently in the process of applying for a green card, working and paying taxes as a box truck driver, taking care of her daughter. She was taken into ICE custody after being illegally stopped over a registration that was not expired. More ICE bullshit. Anonymous. What's up, Moose? What's up? So if you can help her out, she's trying to raise 4,500, 1,700 raised so far. Our buddy NoliDee was a victim of a devastating fire. She's wheelchair bound, and you know, she has to have special access to get into places like ramps and stuff like that. And she doesn't have anything, you know, and she's fought for a lot of people in this space too. So let's give back to her if we can. She's trying to get $3,500 raised so far, only 585. Hopefully we can get those numbers up for her. And finally, our buddy Kevin at Black Bear News, you know, he lost his house in the LA fires, the Eaton fire, and you know, he could use your help. He's trying to raise 20,000. He's getting close to his goal of 18,500. So hopefully, you know, he can get that. You know, losing your home and you lose all your possessions and stuff like that. That's just, you know, it really just takes it out of you. And you know, anything we can do to help our friends in this space. Like I said, if you can't donate, if you can share out the links, all of them are down below. We really do appreciate that. Oh yeah, Moose, you're not trick-or-treating tonight? You're just chilling the night away? Moose is across the pond there, by the way. You get what? You're not scaring children? What do you want? We got no goddamn candy. So yeah, speaking of which, tonight we have funsies for you. Look at that. That's some crazy shit. Night of the Living Dead, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be watching it. My buddy Chuck the Alien's going to stop by, and we're going to make fun of it and have some fun. Hopefully you guys, if you got nothing better to do, come hang out with us tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, for Halloween night goodies. It's Night of the Living Dead. We're going to watch the whole movie, hang out and have fun. It should be a good time. And bring your candy corn, but don't bring any circus peanuts. Circus peanuts not allowed. And then tomorrow night, we got the Secret Show. It's the end of October, but it is the beginning of Blowvember. I just made that up. I don't think that's the thing. But we're doing funsies videos. You know the thing. You know what we do. Saturday, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time. YouTube, Rockfin. I keep saying that. YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. Thank you. Finally today, we got a twofer, kind of a Halloween thingy for you for the holiday, as a Utah man. Dramatic pause. They scare me these days. Right, I know, right? I don't blame you. That's why I'm staying home. Utah man drops a 1,900 and almost a ton pumpkin onto his Geo Metro. You're like, well, why do I care about this? Well, you should care.
A pumpkin farmer in Utah wanted to get rid of his car, but he took a rather unique approach.
Alan Gabert says that he drove his 1991 Geo Metro for nearly 35 years before it stopped running, which he says was his cue to drop a massive pumpkin onto the car. So he gathered his community to watch and dropped a 2,000-pound gourd from 14 stories in the air. Before the demise of both the car and the pumpkin, Gerbert's pumpkin came in first place at the Utah Giant Pumpkin Festival. I can imagine so. Wow. Oh my goodness.
That's good video.
Yeah, that is good video. So yeah, 1,917-pound pumpkin. Poor Geo Metro. Do you really have to do that? It was a 91. Wow, he's been driving that for a while. Alan Gerbert says 91 Geo Metro finally stopped running. And then they dropped the pumpkin on him. Crazy stuff. But, you know, we can't go a day without having some sort of monkey got on the loose story. And we got this one. Monkey gets loose inside Spirit Halloween store in Texas. Let's look at this bullshit.
This next story is bananas. Okay, a monkey escaped its owner inside of a Spirit Halloween store in Plano. And well, our Meredith Yeomans has the videos to prove it.
And just shock, sheer shock.
A Spirit Halloween store can be a surreal shopping experience. But creepy clowns and spooky scarecrows took a backseat Monday night to the real show. running around above store shelves. Arlene Pinkston was shopping with her daughters at a spirit store off 75 in Plano.
My daughter looked up and she said, "What in the world?" And she's like, "Is that a real monkey?" And so I look up and I said, "Well, it's got a diaper on, so I guess it is real."
For more than 30 minutes, the monkey could be seen climbing poles, swinging from wires, and crawling around rafters. Jimmy Harris works at the store. He says the pet monkey got spooked by animatronics and ran away from a customer who brought the animal inside.
It was entertaining. I mean, it was like, huh. I mean, a lot of people just stood and watched for like 30 minutes, like the whole time. There was a monkey. And you had kids trying to catch it. And
Plano police were called to the store and tell us when an officer arrived, he observed the monkey swinging from the rafters wearing a diaper. Eventually, a cookie was offered to the monkey by the owner and was able to gain control of it. Arlene Pinkston was not there for that.
It had jumped down on the floor and ran past my leg. And at that point, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
A picture or it didn't happen experience.
I've got better than that for you. I've got 5 videos.
Hair raising for different reasons. In Plano, Meredith Yeomans, NBC5.
Well, police say the monkey was never a threat and was not injured.
Well, that's good. Last thing you want is a hurt monkey at a Spirit Halloween store. Yeah, he said those animatronics scare like regular ass people. You just put a monkey and a diaper in there. Come on, man. Who brings a monkey to the Spirit Halloween store? It's my helper monkey. Well, that monkey wasn't helping nothing. Sorry, not sorry. All right, we had to end things on a high note there, especially because the monkey was high up in the rafters. See what we did there? We did the thing. All right, so that's it for you. Happy Halloween. Happy last day of Rocktober. I'll be back, like I said, tomorrow night. Tonight for Night of the Living Dead, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Rumble, and the Book of Faces. Tomorrow night is The Secret Show. This show will be back on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, and 8 a.m. Pacific Time. YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the cash. For those who donated today. Also, don't forget to check out in the pinned comments there on YouTube, Kamishori Kate's Halloween radio show. Check that out, and check out her channel as well on Mixcloud. Good stuff there. Come see us tonight. We'll watch movies, have fun. Hopefully, no loose monkeys, but I can't promise anything. See you later. Oh,
This is SETI Alpha 5. Woo!
Soon.